This is one of my favorite parts of this entire weekend, where we go basically spelunking into your wounds. If you don't know spelunking, it's cave diving. You know, and it's like, I don't know, who's been spelunking or like cave diving? Okay, so some of you. And I've never been. I want to go. It seems like, tell me if I'm wrong, it seems like you would walk up and it'd be kind of like dark, and you wouldn't really know if there's anything cool and gorgeous in there, because it just looks like a sort of dark, wet, dank hole, right? But then you go in, and there are stalactites and stalagmites and all sorts of nifty things, right? The same is true with all of you. There are nifty things in there. And
nifty.
Nifty. So you can tell I'm like a little boy waiting to go spelunking here. Because the places inside of myself, and now the work I do with my clients, that I always thought were like the places I didn't want anyone to see, are the places I found gold. And interestingly enough, that particular shade of gold, that particular type of gold, is where you can really differentiate yourself in the market. So yeah, when Suzanne and I got together and business-wise and started working, we get asked.
Strictly business, folks. But we do love each other, and we are dear friends.
When we started working together, I thought I had been teaching Tim Kelly's True Purpose process, and I thought it was just doing like, oh, find your purpose and then build a platform on it. And turns out there was this third body of work, this new body of work that was really wound-based. Now, whoever thought you could fill a room to capacity doing wound-based marketing, but here y'all are. And what we started to see is that time after time after time after time, when people got a really on target, really authentic online platform, there was a direct correlation to the person's core wounds, their challenges in life. Now, one of the things we've always said in Purpose Land is that your wounds are the training for your purpose. And so it kind of makes sense, right? That because of your challenges in life, you've done certain things and not done other things, and it's crafted you in a really particular way. Now, the cool thing from a marketing standpoint is people buy with emotion and justify with intellect. So that means we need to connect with them on a really emotional level, right? And when Suzanne or maybe I said this earlier, that people decide or within a 20th of a second, am I going to stay or go on a website? It needs to be really visceral, really immediate, really emotional. Well, you happen to know a particular emotional landscape better than anyone else, because you've lived it. So the very things that, you know, in childhood experiences seem to be so wounding, actually have done a couple things. One, they've taught you how other people feel. Who in here has ever written a copy, right, words for a sales email or website or something, and felt like you kind of had to make it up?
What do you mean by make it up? Say a little bit more specifically.
Meaning like, I'm using my head, I'm not really in my heart, I'm in my intellect, trying to figure out what I'm supposed to say to these people to make them buy something.
How many of you felt like you were faking it, essentially?
Right?
You know?
Or at least to take some action, to click on this button or to watch this video or to do something. You're trying to elicit a behavior, right? And it feels sometimes like you have to just kind of like, well, what do I have to tell them to make them do this thing, the old manipulative thing we were talking about, right? But what if you didn't have to make it up? Because instead of trying to figure it out, you went into your own emotional knowing of how they feel because you've been there, and speak to them from that place.
One of the things we have really been given to do is what Spirit calls the bringing together of the disparate parts. So in this situation, the disparate parts are how I'm supposed to be out in the world and how I really feel about who I am. And how do I express myself in a way that is actually the two brought together so I'm aligned. And when I sit down to write copy, I'm just me. How incredible would it be to write copy and to develop programs and have a website that was just you? We had a client in our mentorship program that just ended who couldn't decide right up to the bitter end which platform to go with. The one that was really in her heart ready to go, or the one that some other marketing consultants really felt was the one that would hit, that people would buy, that she could certainly do it. She was good at this, but it wasn't the thing that was really in there. And how could she be the person who was just going to stand in the truth of the new platform that was really carved out of her unique soul? And when she did the really scary thing and she finally committed to that one platform, and let me tell you, there were a lot of conversations about, no, you can't have that. No, you can't have 3 platforms. You've got to have one. You know, because that's where a lot of us want to go. It's like, don't make me decide. Don't make me commit to myself on that level. Yep. And why? Punch to the wounds.
That actually brings up the other cool part about doing wound-based branding. Right? By the way, let me just put a disclaimer out here right now and say that none of you will have to go air your dirty laundry. Right? So just because we're going to look inside of your wounds to understand an emotional landscape doesn't mean that you're plastering all over your website about your childhood wounds. It's not. But the other thing that happens is you do come face to face with the very things you thought were rotten or awful or whatever that you need to hide. Because when you don't need to hide them anymore, right? Okay, so Exhibit A, there's all this stuff back here, and I need to manage it, and I need to hide it, and I need to keep everyone from seeing it, and just look at here, don't look there, right? Now, how can I be a global change agent and messenger bringing my work out to the world if I'm worried about this all day, every day? It's not possible. But when you can find the gifts in this and no longer have to manage anything, then you're just available.
Look how much energy you've got to be powerful in your business and really get the word out to more people. That's one of the many reasons internal platform building is so important.
And that's what we've come to call it. You know, platform in traditional marketing sense is really what you're known for, right? When Oprah calls and say, well, what's their platform? If they were talking about Vernice, they'd say, oh, well, Vernice was the first African-American fighter pilot in the Marines. She is a public speaker. She speaks to these kind of audiences. She has this book published by this group, and she has this many people that follow her, right? It's sort of like her brand, what she's known for, what she stands for, and how big of a platform she has. And so Suzanne's been a platform building expert for a long, long time. And this internal platform building, we started to see, oh, it's just as important. Because when you have the internal scaffolding built, when there's nothing more you have to hide, and you can just step out into the world, you have the internal scaffolding built, you can step onto to bring your message out to the world. So not only can you find really great fodder for marketing in your wounds, you also become the person that can stand solidly inside of yourself to deliver your work to the world.
Not afraid to be known. Not afraid to be known. your wounds are things that happened to you in early childhood that formed a belief in you about how you were going to have to be in the world to protect yourself.
So, for example, when I grew up, I was a precocious little boy. And I didn't have much of a filter. And I lived in a really conservative little suburb. When people go visit my hometown, my little suburb, they're like, oh my God, how many churches are there here? There's not just one on every corner. There's some blocks with one in the middle as well as on the corners of the block, right? My experience of my community was that there was a lot of sort of damning God in the consciousness, right? The heaven and hell, and you'll go to hell if you do this, and heaven if you do that. And my experience was everybody kind of looking to see who's doing the bad things, right? And the moment you did, then we'd talk about them, right? So for me, I would say things. I mean, I remember my mom telling me once we were at church, and I hope you don't mind me telling this.
Hi, Joyce.
Hi, Joyce.
We've never done this with Joyce here.
So, hi, Mom. So, Mom had gotten her tubes tied. And I didn't really know what that meant, but I thought it was something you did when you got older. So she was standing there talking with some ladies, and I looked up at them and said, did you get your tubes tied too? You look pretty old. And what I remember are the stares. Now, that's just the experience. That's just the experience. And for one kid, that wouldn't be wounding. So it's not the experience, it's how you interpret the experience. And what you have to tell yourself to make sense of it. That's really where the wounding happens. And for me, in experiences like that and many others over time, my interpretation was who I am, like, I'm broken. Like, there's something, like, I'm the apple in the bunch that doesn't fit. I'm the toy you get that when you put the battery in, it doesn't run.
Right.
Right? Like, I don't fit in here. I must be broken. And so you have the experience. That was the experience as an example of it. Then second thing that happens is you have a way of interpreting that experience that is either something about you or the world. For me, it was a belief about myself I created. I'm broken. Then the third thing that happens, and you'll see this in a worksheet here in a bit, the third thing that happens is a compensation strategy. When there's this tug of war between the calling inside of them and the fear of being known and seen. Right? I simultaneously long for this thing, but can't have them see that. And so I know that ache intimately. And when I speak to audiences, whether it's on teleseminars and in rooms like this, or just one-to-one, I don't have to make it up. Oh, I know your pain, right? Let me pretend about it. I can honestly say, I know your pain.
So in order to know their pain, you have to know your pain. And it's usually such a wallpaper behind your life that it's hard to see it. Like, what is that? What makes me do these, what appear to be self-destructive behaviors? Mm-hmm. I can't even wrap my head around what's really driving this. So the opportunity to go in and look at your wounds is an opportunity to know yourself better, and so then to know them.